We look at this matchup and we know how much of an uphill battle this will be for the Patriots against the reigning NFC defending champions, and especially for the Pats in that offensive line and how battered it is right now. How much of an uphill battle do you see it for them against Nick Bosa and what's waiting on the other side with him and the rest of the 49ers?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, anytime you fly across the country to play a road game, that's going to represent its own challenges. And then when you talk upon the fact that this Patriots offensive line is shaky and it's also banged up right now. Michael Wenu even popped up on the injury report on Thursday with a wrist injury. You're already missing Vadarian Lowe at practice. City So has been coming back as a limited participant. There's just a lot of questions along this offensive line health-wise, on top of all of the questions that we have in terms of their capabilities when they actually get onto the field. And I think one of the things that we're looking at here, again, this is a double-digit spread. It's the biggest spread in the NFL, so the odds makers are even thinking that this is going to be an uphill battle for the New England Patriots. But one thing that I think we should kind of take note of is that last week the Patriots played the New York Jets, and that defense really ravished them throughout the evening. And Robert Saleh comes from that lineage of San Francisco 49ers defenses. I know we talk a lot about the 49ers with Kyle Shanahan offense, but the defense is something that's going to kind of be mirrored here as we go into week 4 from week 3. And as you noted, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, there's a lot of pieces there that could pose a lot of challenges for the Patriots on Sunday.
Yeah, you mentioned the spread and where the Patriots stand in regards to the spread and how much of an underdog they are. But one thing I think about here, Tyler, as it's related to this 49ers team, one, they're 1-2, but we know about all the injuries that they've had to deal with this year. Of course, we haven't seen Christian McCaffrey at all this season. Do you think that there's a chance that the Patriots may have caught the 49ers at the right time here in the schedule?
You're right. I mean, if they're going to catch the 49ers at any point, it would be right now. Not only is this team banged up, but the Patriots are coming off their mini bye. They've had more time to prepare for this game. Yeah, sure, it's going to be on the road. You go to the West Coast, that's tough, but you did have 10 days leading up to this matchup, which provides its own advantages. And then we'll talk about that health. You have Deebo Samuel missing the previous game. He returned to practice on a limited basis, as did George Kittle, but their statuses are not 100% for this game as they deal with kind of soft tissue injuries. All of those things kind of could pop up in a negative sense as the days go on. So we don't necessarily know if they'll be available to the 49ers. And defensively, they're starting to get banged up too. Javon Hargrave, it looks like he's going to be out for the year with a season-ending injury, and you had 2 guys carted off in practice yesterday for the 49ers. So there's a lot of things working against them. I don't know if I would go so far as to say all of that stuff is going to allow the Patriots to win on Sunday, but it might be a little bit more competitive than you think.
And we'll see how it ultimately shakes out this weekend. And one part that I'm curious to see, Tyler, is how the Patriots attack things offensively. And you mentioned their performance against the Jets. I mean, the Jets just smothered them when the Jets were on defense, and the Pats offense didn't do anything. What do you think the offensive game plan will be for the Patriots against the 49ers defense that, at least through 3 games in terms of passing defense, hasn't been very good, only 20th best in the NFL?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think this Patriots team, where they are right now, they can only win a certain amount of ways. I don't know if you necessarily want to get into a shootout with Brock Purdy, even without Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we saw Juwan Jennings last week go for $175 and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if we want to tempt fate with that and Brandon Ayuk in the equation as well. So I don't know if that's necessarily the path. I actually think the Patriots could find success on the ground, which is much more catered to how they want to play, to their skill set. The 49ers are allowing 4.5 yards per carry. It's bottom 3rd in the NFL so far. They're not that great on 3rd down. Kind of a sneaky storyline for them dating back to last season. Not a great team getting off the field on 3rd down. But for me, if it's the Patriots, it's Ramondre Stevenson, it's Antonio Gibson. It's not asking Jacoby Brissett to do too much in the passing game. Make the timely throws when you can, but overall, it's dictating the pace of play via the ground game and keeping Brock Purdy Purdy off the field in that regard.
Yeah, Brock Purdy actually has looked pretty good through 3 games. We've talked about the injuries, so it's not as if he's dealing, with an offense that has all of its pieces like he did last year, and you can maybe say, okay, he's a product of his environment. He's actually been pretty good despite the record for the 49ers. What are the keys, from your perspective, for the Patriots to not allow Brock Purdy to pick apart their secondary?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Christian Gonzalez, excuse me. Christian McCaffrey, if he was in there, that'd be a totally different story.
Might be a little bit harder.
Just a little bit. But Christian Gonzalez, I think, could be key to this game. Whether he's on Juwan Jennings or he's on Brandon Ayuk, closing that option for Brock Purdy, I think, is going to help this Patriots defense relatively succeed. Again, if George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are in the equation, things kind of change a little bit. But if it's the team that we saw last week, well, then you can kind of shut them off in certain regards. And one thing that, yes, Brock Purdy's been great this season, but one thing that's been missing from this 49ers offense because of all of those injuries is how lethal they are after the catch. They rank last in the NFL in yards after the catch, which is something that we totally wouldn't expect from a 49ers team because Christian McCaffrey is making plays after the catch. George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. It's just not been the case this year. So if you can bottle them up after they do make the catch or they do move the football in a positive direction, I think that could help you a little bit get off the field quicker.
On the topic of quarterbacks, on the Patriots side of things in that game against the Jets, I mean, the one thing from a Patriots perspective, a fan perspective, that you were at least excited about was we got to see the 3rd overall pick in that game make his NFL debut. So, Tyler, a question for you about this game. Do you think we see Drake Maye out there for a 2nd consecutive game?
It's possible because I think that you could potentially get down a similar path where the game's out of reach and you want to give your rookie quarterback some time to see live reps. I don't think that that's necessarily out of the question. Now, ideally, I don't know if you necessarily want to do that. I know there's a case to be said for, hey, listen, let's have him see defenses. Let's have him have some live reps in NFL games. But as you saw last week, I just don't know how helpful that is, especially if the offensive line is continuing to be beat as badly as they've been. And you saw that game last week, even when Drake Maye was in there, he was sacked twice, he was under siege. Sure, there's some positive things you can take from it, but I also wonder if there's a negative result that could come from it, whether it's injury or just not necessarily learning as best you can because the offensive line is so battered. Now, we'll see how that shakes out, and really, I think it would only come into play if the Patriots are very much behind or, of course, if Jacoby Brissett gets injured.
Yeah, and on the topic of quarterback as well, Tyler, this is something that was floated out to Gerard Mayo, a question about should the Patriots sign a veteran quarterback behind Jacoby Brissett in the case that Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, and he's already taken a lot of hits through 3 games. Now, Gerard Mayo, he shut that notion, that idea down, saying we like what we have in Drake Maye as our backup. But what do you think of that idea that the Patriots maybe should sign a veteran quarterback behind Jacoby Brissett in the case he gets hurt, that you wouldn't have to resort to going to Drake Maye in a situation that obviously isn't ideal for a rookie quarterback?
Yeah, I probably would have liked it at the beginning of the season. If that was their plan after, roster cuts, they get rid of Bailey Zappi and they decide to bring somebody in that knows Alex Van Pelt's offense, can kind of be a practice squad veteran, game day elevation. I think that would have made a little bit more sense. As we start to go through the season here, I just don't know if that's really conducive to the Patriots long term, because the whole storyline has been off the field that Drake Maye has been getting 30% of the game or the starters reps during practice. They're developing him behind the scenes. And if you bring in a veteran quarterback, that takes away from not Jacoby Brissett's reps, that probably takes away from Drake Maye's reps in the background. And I don't necessarily think that's the best thing long term for the organization. As much as we look at 2024 and you want New England to have success on a week in and week out basis in this season, they're looking at it as a more macro approach, especially at the quarterback position, as they're starting to bring Drake Maye along. If you bring in another veteran quarterback, I just don't think that that's necessarily great for Drake Maye's development, which should be priority number 1 for the organization.
Yeah, one thing I keep thinking about with this matchup too, Tyler, is if the 49ers end up losing this game, despite the fact that they are the heavy favorite. Boy, you think about the talk around the NFL. If this team, this NFC reigning champion team that obviously has had a lot of injuries, but if they lose this game against the Patriots, they're going to be the talk of the entire sport with going to 1-3 at this point.
Yeah, it would really be alarm bells going off in the NFC West because that division, don't look now, it's competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming off last week where the Rams were able to upset them, make their comeback in the second half. Seattle's currently undefeated, and the Cardinals are spunky. I mean, it could be a scenario where the San Francisco 49ers could finish last in that division, which is crazy to think about and certainly would put a lot of scrutiny under Kyle Shanahan. But I do think that, again, injuries will kind of play a part to that. You can kind of talk it away a little bit. But overall, that's a very competitive division. If New England pulls off this upset, you're all of a sudden you're beating Cincinnati in week 1, San Francisco in week 2. There's some things you can hang your hat on in a season where there may not be as many of those opportunities as we would hope.
Yeah, boy, what a story it would be, obviously, out west. If the Patriots could pull it off, we can't wait to watch and see if they can. And Tyler Sullivan of CBS Sports, it's so great to be back with you talking football. Thanks for the time as always.